You just got an invitation on your calendar from your boss's boss for a 30-minute meeting. What is that all about? What could possibly happen in that meeting? Well, good things and bad things, but generally good things. So let's talk about what it's like to meet with your skip level supervisor, which is another word for your boss's boss. Also, we're going to turn it around, and when you are the skip level, how to meet with your employees, direct employees as well. So we're going to talk about skip level meetings in this video. My name is Tom, and I run the Executive Career Accelerator, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link in the description to learn more. But today we're talking about skip level meetings, why they're important, how to handle them from both sides of the conversation, and what to expect going forward after the meeting. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about talking to your boss's boss, right? First thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your boss is aware that you are having a meeting with your skip level supervisor. Generally, the skip will ask for this meeting, but if for whatever reason you decide that you want to meet with your skip level supervisor, be sure to make that request through your boss. So if your skip level supervisor has requested a meeting with you, be sure to inform your boss. But if you are requesting a meeting with your skip, make that request through your boss. And the reason you want to do this is so that no executives like to be surprised. Do not surprise your boss when you can avoid doing that. It will only lead to bad outcomes for you and them. So generally speaking, you want to make sure that your boss is very aware and clear of your intentions and what you're doing and why you're doing them. Make sure to let your boss know what you will be discussing in this meeting with your skip, unless the skip set the meeting, and then you can assume that they will either know that this meeting is a standard meeting or they'll know what that skip specifically wants to talk to you about. Again, like I said, nothing worse than being surprised as an executive, so do not surprise your boss. The number one question when you have this meeting, the number one thing that you can ask when you're in that meeting is, what's the number one thing that I can do to help you right now? You want to demonstrate to your skip that you are someone who has potential to help in more ways than the current role you're in, right? Sometimes we see people as only the job that they do. We don't see them as having additional potential in other areas. And so it's important that you demonstrate the ability to help them in ways beyond just the current role that you're in. So also be very clear about your goals and your desire to move upwards in your career. When you are talking with your skip, make sure that they understand that you do have ambition and you feel like you have potential that's untapped and that you have a desire to grow and become more valuable for the organization than you currently are. If that's the case. You're on this channel if you are that way, but make sure that you're letting your boss's boss know that you do have an interest in moving up in your career. And one of the best ways to do that is to just ask for advice. One of the things I learned about fundraising for startups was if you want advice, ask for money. But if you want money, ask for advice. And same thing here with when you are talking with executives, instead of asking for promotion, ask for advice. And that usually gets people a little bit more interested in wanting to help you, because when you ask an executive for advice, most executives are excited to want to help people because they feel like, okay, well, I've accomplished this level. I can show the next generation how to do the same thing as well. And it kind of makes them feel good about paying it forward. So ask for advice on how you can grow. Like one of the best questions you can ask is, what areas should I focus on in order to grow my career? And you're asking this in a way that's like, what degrees should I get? What certifications should I get? It's what experience do I need? What personal skills do I need to develop? What blind spots do you think that I have that I should focus on? Asking those questions of your skip, and they may not have great answers. Sometimes they do. Either way, it's going to get them to think about you in that perspective, and then maybe go and find some things about you themselves that they can then come back and share with you, like, hey, just so you know, I think you should focus on learning this skill because that's where the organization's going. The other thing you want to do is you want to be mindful of their time. Definitely keep these meetings short, right? Avoid going into long stories about detailed minutia that will lose their attention. Remember, executives are way up here. They're very strategic and they're looking at things from 30,000, 50,000 feet in the air, right? You're down in the weeds. You're working at the 5, 10, 15,000 foot level. And your experiences are very much in this. And they're going to want to know some detail, but you really want to keep it high level so that you don't lose their attention and they become bored in the details. The other thing that I really recommend is giving back time at the end of a meeting. So typically these meetings are 30 minutes long. Well, if it gets to be 23 minutes into the the meeting and there's a natural pause, break the meeting. Say, I want to give you back some time, or I want to be respectful of your time and give you back a few minutes. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to meeting with you again. The other thing that you can do is ask for a follow-up meeting after this one. It can be in a month, or it can be in 2 months or 3 months or something like that. And ask them, do they want to meet on a regular cadence to talk about your career progression? Those are ways to get them to think about you after the 30-minute meeting, because that's something that happens. Executives will meet with someone for 30 minutes, be completely engaged with them, and then just wait for the employee to do the next thing. You want to make sure that you are proactively at the end of that meeting asking for a follow-up meeting to talk about your career progression, because you want to be top of mind for your boss's boss in terms of succession planning. Also, finally, make sure that you stay positive and polite during this meeting. Don't get into the he said, she said stuff. Executives don't enjoy all of the drama, and you don't really want to bring all of that up in that meeting. That's not the place to. Certainly do not want to throw your manager under the bus, but you don't want to be throwing other people under the bus either. You can mention more generally, like, I wish certain things were different, or, I think we could be more effective if we had a culture of this, right? You can do that, but I would keep it very generic. And remember, they're also looking for problem solvers. So if you show up with a pile of problems and just dump it on their desk, that's not going to go anywhere. That's not going to help you. It's not going to help them. That's miserable. They want to see people who are problem solvers themselves. So if you see a problem, show up, talk about the problem, and then also talk about potential solutions that might work to solve that problem. And that doesn't mean like, well, Debbie sucks at everything, so let's just get rid of Debbie. Let's find better ways to make it clear that, I'm having trouble working with the HR department, specifically in this one area, and I'm wondering if there's processes we can put in place to improve that. And I have an idea on how that might work, and then give them a process, not a name of person that you should get rid of or something like that. They don't want the drama. The executives do not want to hear the drama from you. They want to know if you're someone who can move up, and they're rating you for that. Don't waste this opportunity to complain about somebody else in the organization. So that's generally how you want to talk with your skip level supervisor. You want to go in there, you want to be in a positive mindset, you want to be mindful of their time, you want to ask them, what problems can you solve for them right now, and what areas should you focus on in your career going forward? And then can we have a follow-up meeting to have another conversation so I can demonstrate some growth to you? Remember that executives look at employees as lines, not dots. And what that means is right now you are establishing a dot, a point in time and space. But you want to establish another one later where you've shown growth, and then another, and then another. And then over time, if they see growth in you, then they're going to see that you are somebody on a trajectory upwards, and they're going to want to start planning for when you get to a point where you are above your role and ready for the next level. So now let's turn it around and talk about what it's like to talk to your subordinates employee. If you are the skip level supervisor, and this will also give you some insight on what your skip is thinking during this meeting. So when you are the skip level supervisor, it's very common to have these meetings for a lot of reasons. Like I said, generally it's something to do a 360 analysis of your employee so you can understand what that person is, how that person is managing, because you want to look at your direct employees. You want to look at them from your perspective, their peers' perspective, and their employees' perspective. And that's why it's called a 360-degree perspective on a leader. So that skip is doing that right now. It's not about you, it's about their direct, but it is also about you. And I'll explain why. So as a skip, you should meet with your skip reports about once a year, maybe twice a year. And you want to meet with them one-to-one individually for about 30 minutes. Now, when you do this, you want to let your direct know, hey, I'm going to be doing a round of skip reviews or skip interviews or skip meetings with your team and my other subordinates teams, and just kind of give them a heads up, like in June, I should meet with, all 17 of your employees. And so help me schedule out all of those things, right? They'll help you with the logistics of getting that done. But more importantly, you want to make sure that you let your direct know that this is coming and that this is normal, and explain why you're doing this. One is to do their 360, and two is to scan the team for potential stars that you can bring up in the organization. So when you you do this, you also want to get a read ahead from your employee to understand their relationships with their subordinates. And we're going to talk about a 9-box in another video, but a 9-box review of employees is a way to understand which of your employees are stars, which of them are not doing so well, and so forth. So you're going to want to have that information from your direct employee before you meet with their direct employees as well. When you meet with this skip, what you want to do is you want to set a meeting with an agenda for about 30 minutes. And what I've seen people do in the past is send read ahead questions for skips. So you can send a list of questions to a skip that you're going to meet with. And it can be 3, 4, 5 questions like, how's your job going? What's one thing you think we could change? What's one thing you want to talk about during our meeting? Things like that. And you'd be surprised at what comes back on these. Everyone's different, and some people put NA and 2 words. Others write you voluminous, documents, pages long with details. So it's always interesting to see what comes back, but you can send a list of questions ahead. You can also, in the meeting invite, send a very clear agenda. And my agenda typically for skip level meetings was always this: 30 minutes, 10 minutes about the employee, just getting to know her or him, just getting to understand what their life is like, where they've worked, where they want to go, what vacations they've been on, what's their family. Just want to kind of know the person, right? And I like that. I really do lean into knowing, liking, and hopefully trusting all of the people that I work with. The next 10 minutes are about their job or their role or their work that they're doing right now. And so you want to ask them, tell me about some projects you're on right now. What has that been like? What has the customer experience been? Have they been happy with us? Like, whatever they're doing, dive into asking about what they do. Get to know the work that they're doing. And what you're looking for is you're looking to see what energy level they have in terms of, are they really excited about their work? Or is it just like, yeah, like you're kind of gauging the energy here, because sometimes people wind up in roles that aren't great fits for them, and they actually would be better in a different role. And so this is one of the things that you're doing is you're scanning your teams to see if those teams have the right people aligned in the right seats and so forth. So find out what their work is, how successful they are, what they enjoy about it, what they hate about it, what they would change about it if possible, all of those things. And then finally, the last 10 minutes you want to reserve for talking about their career, because clearly, as I've just talked about in the first half of this video, anyone who's going into a skip level meeting knows that their boss's boss is super important in deciding where their career goes from here inside of this organization. So they're going to see you as a kingmaker and someone who can help them be promoted. If you think they are promotable, it's very likely they get promoted. So you want to make sure that you kind of give time for those employees to talk through their career goals. Not everybody wants to grow. Not everybody wants to be the CEO. Not everybody wants to be a vice president. Some people love the work that they do and they're very happy and they have no real potential beyond their current role, but they're very good at that role, and you want to let them be successful in that way. Just understand that you are looking for people that you want to move up, and you're also looking to understand who wants to stay exactly where they are. When you do give feedback or advice to an employee, make sure that it's very clear and succinct. You don't want to, well, I heard this and, well, Bob says that. You don't want to be kind of like with soft innuendos about maybe this or I've heard that. Like, I have seen when you work on this project in this way, good things happen, or I've heard that if you do these things wrong, then it leads to difficulty. And so we want to make sure we're paying attention to that. Something that's very clear and specific when you're giving feedback. And when it comes to advice on career, you're scanning for things like authenticity, empathy, audacity, coachability, humility, kindness, decisiveness, confidence, all of these traits that really make up executive presence and executive skill, and let them know if you feel like they're missing an area. I think you'd be a great executive if you learn 1 or 2 things, and some of those things that I would focus on if I were you is being decisive or whatever it is for that person, right? Or being less verbose, finding a way to be more succinct and communicating like an executive in very clear and short communications. So remember, this is a great opportunity to do the succession planning for your organization. If something were to happen to one of your directs, if they were to resign, who would replace them? This is one of the things that you're doing, is looking at who moves up, next man up in the team when someone on your team disappears for one reason or another, they get promoted or they resign or something, who on their team could move up into their role. So this is part of succession planning. You're also looking for people that might fit other roles elsewhere in the organization outside of their direct supervisor's team. And so finally, be sure to go and share your insights with your direct about their directs, what you learned in those interactions, those one-on-one meetings that you had with their directs. And this will help them understand how they can grow and shape their own team. And it gives them an extra data point to understand who's on their team and what do other people think about their team as well. So that's going to help them be a more effective manager as well. So that's the two perspectives of a skip, right? The first is how to talk with your skip level supervisor, but also how to talk to skip level subordinates as well. And I did it this way because I want you to understand both sides of the meeting. It's important that you see what it's like on both sides of this meeting, because this is a very important meeting. It's very impactful to your career progression inside of this organization. If you show up and think you're being polite, but you're not advocating for yourself, they're not going to know that you have an interest in growing. So it's important that you do share your interest in growing in your career, but you also want to do it in a way that's polite and appropriate without being like, hey, I'm ready for promotion. Who's going to promote me? Are you going to promote me now? Like, no, I'm not. So make sure that you approach this meeting with a lot of respect and understand these two perspectives and what both people want out of this meeting. And that's going to help you have a successful skip level meeting. I hope this was helpful to you, and I'm going to do a couple more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one.